What's up, guys? Back with another Yap session. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. So, I want to do a little different Yap session. The last few ones have been more of a tutorial, and I wanted to switch it up to a just a philosophy, something to think of and try to implement. Change your neuron pathways and just just some good food for thought that has helped me on my journey. And I wanted to talk about the big one, consistency. So when I think of the big traits for really life, but generally specifically bodybuilding, I think of consistency, discipline, and effort. I don't really think of them as a pyramid, but rather a hierarchy. Maybe pillars is a better analogy, with consistency being the largest pillar, really encompassing everything else. Because with consistency comes discipline, comes effort, because it takes consistency to do these things. I guess you could think of it as a pyramid because you could interchange all of these. However, I'm just focusing on consistency today. To be a good bodybuilder, to be a good human, you need consistency in your life. In bodybuilding, you can put consistency in every aspect. It's not overnight your body changes. It's not overnight you start benching 4 plates. It it takes days in and days out of doing the same thing over and over again in every aspect of bodybuilding. In the kitchen, eating the same meals and eating all of your meals. You know, every day going to the gym and then down to the nuances, every rep being the same, every doing the same amount of sets, pushing sets, effort being the same. There are times, probably once a week, where I do not want to be at the gym, do not want to go at the gym, but I go because I need me to. You know, I consistently go, and that's what, 1% every day, better every day. Stagnation is a true killer. To be consistent creates discipline, and then, therefore, in bodybuilding, creates muscle. I was thinking about this today as well. There's a lot of the times where we sit at the edge of our seats for our favorite player, for our partner, for our friend in any competition. You want them to strive to do better, to be better, to reach their dreams, their goals, their potential that you see in them. But a lot of the times we don't look in on ourselves and do the same thing. And I think bodybuilding, being a somewhat selfish sport, and in life too, but specifically bodybuilding, we need to do this for ourselves. We should be our biggest fans. We should be on the edge of our seat for ourselves, dreaming, urging, manifesting ourselves to do more, to be more, being on the edge of our seat to reach that potential, to reach those dreams, reach those goals, and urging, just from the bottom of your heart, from the bottom of your soul, urging yourself to complete these things, to being your biggest fan. It's not wrong to be at the edge of a seat for yourself. And I think consistency can implement this because consistency, doing certain different things, going to the gym every day, accomplishing small goals consistently will help build your self-confidence. Accomplishing tasks that you put out for yourself will help build your self-confidence. If you consistently wake up and make your bed every day, I know it's so cheesy, but I promise you, if you consistently make up your bed every day, you will start to feel better. You will start to feel like you accomplish more tasks. If you consistently get up at 6 a.m. and go for a walk or go do your cardio, you will start to feel better. You will start to feel like you achieved more and therefore gain more confidence in yourself. And it doesn't start off big. I always talk about the beginners, and that's who I hope I'm reaching out to. It doesn't start from you doing nothing, never going to the gym, and then all of a sudden getting a gym membership and going every day, benching as much as you can, eating as much food as you can. No, it starts out small. For the people who the gym is not their passion, but they want to get fit, you start off with consistently going to the gym, just getting there. Don't even think about workouts. Don't even think about what to eat. The first step is just getting to the gym every day, or 4 days a week, 3 days a week. Hey, I made it 3 days a week. I consistently made it 3 days a week. Hey, and then those weeks build. It's not just the days and days out. I know I said that, but it's the weeks and weeks out. Now, for more advanced people, my bodybuilders, you have 55 weeks in a year. Those are, let's say those are roughly 40 weeks of true training, because you got all the rest days. If you're missing days of training or missing food, those add up. You know, you only have a certain amount of meals in a week, a certain amount of training in a week, and if you miss those add up. Let's say you have a total of 300 training days. That's lowballing it by a lot. You miss one training day a week or one every other week, now you're down to 250. You have missed that gap because you weren't consistent in what you're doing. Switching gears real quick with the confidence thing. I hope you're all doing well. And if you're not, I just want you to remember, no feeling is final. These feelings of dread and doubt and loneliness can affect us all, and they're hard, heavy feelings. But just remember that these feelings do not control you, and they do not take away tomorrow from you. Remember, the sun will rise tomorrow. Tomorrow will come. So even if they don't feel like these feelings are getting better or they're going away, they will. And the feeling of loneliness and dread will eventually, over time, go away. So if even for tomorrow, just remember, the sun will rise and no feeling is final. Another thing with consistency is the overlap with progressive overload. Going into the real nuances of bodybuilding, it's one giant science experiment with ourselves. If you remember in high school, middle school, whatever, college, doing science experiments, you had controls. You had variables that you could adjust, and you had certain things you wouldn't. The more controls, the better, because that will create an environment with less things affecting what you're trying to measure. Now think of life, our busy, frantic lives. There are only so many things we can control. And in bodybuilding, we want to, our measuring variable is our progression. If we aren't consistently going to the gym or consistently eating or consistently eating our meals or consistently, using the same weights, it's hard to measure the progression because those variables are now affecting us. If we're not, getting the same amount of sleep, if we're not, consistently putting in the effort, these variables affect us. We're not able to measure progression, and then therefore that leads to, what if our weights are going down? It could be a plethora of things. We can't tell because there's so many other things happening. But let's say all those things are consistent. We can zero all those things out and use those as controls. We don't have to worry about those. Now we can look at, hey, do we need more food? Are you getting enough recovery? Hey, are you drinking enough water? But if that's a consistent thing, then don't have to worry about that. Now we can look at, it's a lot easier to narrow down what we need to fix and work on. The final thing I want to talk about consistency of is kind of branching off the confidence thing, is when you consistently do something, it builds a habit. And for us to build a habit of going to the gym and being healthy will only benefit you in the long run. And it turns into this discipline aspect that, even though you're not seeing progression, the motivation might die out, but the discipline will keep you going, because motivation comes and goes. It ebbs and flows. Some days we don't. Like I said, some days we do, and then, I once a week don't want to be at the gym. I'm just tired or my motivation sucks. But the discipline, because of what my consistency has built, keeps me going. Because I know in the long run, it will help me. I know in the long run, it will be worth it. Just like life, bodybuilding is not a marathon, or not a sprint. Excuse me, it's a marathon. It sucks to hear that. We want to see changes overnight, but that doesn't happen. Doesn't mean you can't train like you can see changes overnight, which is what I implore you to do. But just be cognizant of that. So I hope this helped, guys. It's a little different. I hope it's not turning into a Marco Valley motivation, but it's just some food for thought. You know, especially for the beginners, just starting out small and building is the biggest thing. And then for more advanced people, checking your boxes and then doing more. But checking your boxes for progression to do your thing. So that's all I got. Hope you guys have a good one. Thanks.